Hello and welcome to my lair. I'm Ice Dragon Cosplay and this is pattern comparison. Okay, so pattern comparison is when I take two patterns made by two different companies and I'm going to go over the pros and cons of them. Each pattern is pretty much trying to make the same thing and I've used both of them and I just kind of want to pass on my knowledge of what it was like working with the patterns. This is in no way trying to influence you to buy a specific product or not buy a specific product. I'm just going to give you a 100% honest review about my experience with them and how I feel about the patterns and how they turned out. So, like I said, this isn't like, you may enjoy a pattern that I don't like. And you may understand it more. This is totally just for information and to help you make a decision. So on today's pattern comparison, I am going to be comparing the two Cersei patterns, one by Simplicity and one by McCalls. Now, if you're not sure who Cersei is, she is Cersei Lannister from the Game of Thrones, and the costume in question is mostly her red gold outfit that she wears throughout Season 2 mainly. And she wears some variations of it, like there's a purple and gold one, a blue and like a brown one. So this is great because she wears so many dresses that are built like this, and there's even other characters that wear similar designs that you could always use this pattern for. So I'll just jump right into it. So if this is Simplicity's, and this is the dress in question. This is the dress in question. Though this one's kind of the same, we're mostly going to talk about this one. So as you can see, it's got the long sleeves, the contrast side parts, and the kimono style opening, which is really important because that's key in Cersei's things. And we're going to compare that pattern to McCall's version. Not this version, but this one here. And I wish it was the bigger one, but it's not, so ignore that. And in the drawing, you can see that the sleeves are kind of different, actually. They're split at the bottom. They make the comparison look bigger. And they also have the kimono opening. But in this pattern, you see that there are ties. So, from picture, it's very hard to decipher which pattern to go with. And it all just depends on what you're aiming for. I'm just going to pretty much go over the pros of each one and the cons of each one. And then we will discuss what my choice is that I would suggest. So let's just go ahead and start with Simplicity. Ta-da! Simplicity. Now, I'm a big Simplicity person. And it definitely lives up to its name. Simplicity patterns are pretty simple. It has nice, easy to understand instructions, which I love because, especially when I was first sewing, like, I did not know all the jargon and everything. Like, I was like, what's a slip stitch? What's an E-stitch? What's this? What's that? Blah, blah, blah. And, you know, they keep things nice and simple. Kiss. And I like that. I really do like that about Simplicity. So, past easy instructions. I don't have very many pros about this one, unfortunately. I do love the sleeve design, but it's not accurate to the show's character. And the dress was a nice fit. I usually always suggest going up a dress size that you normally wear. So if you're a 6, go up to an 8. If you're an 8, go up to a 10. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I wish I had more to say about this pattern, except that it wasn't, so I guess I'm going to go to cons now, since I only had one pro. Cons, not show accurate. Boo. So, what do I mean by this? Well, I'll start with the sleeves. So, in the show, if you actually look closely at the dress and everything, you'll see that the sleeves are, yes, very long like this, but they're more squarish. They are more squarish, and they're open at the bottom, and they're actually a lot bigger than this version's. And secondly, She has a kimono top, and it ties. That's how it works. This one has no ties put into the pattern. It's a zipper. And okay, that's great now if you're going to have a zipper and it's going to be hidden somewhere. But this is one of my biggest cons of this pattern, is where they have you put the zipper. They have you put it right up the side skirt where the contrast is and into the bodice. Why does this bother me? This bothers me because that means my zipper's going through 2 separate colored fabrics. What the heck, Simplicity? Why would you do that to me? Why? Now, of course, you could do what I did with my original dress that I made using that pattern, is I made it so that it just was big enough that I actually could slide it over my head, because I had a belt with it, so it didn't matter if it was kind of baggy up here where the kimono top was. I just slid it on and then put the belt on so that it held the kimono top in place. That's not going to work for ladies that are a little chestier. Like, I was having a problem and I'm not that chesty. So, other than that, I really didn't have any problem with the dress. You know, the sleeves were gorgeous. I've used them and mashed them up with other patterns, and overall it is a great medieval based dress. I just don't like where the zipper placement is, and I prefer to be more accurate at whether it's with the character or even historically. So, that being said, let's move on to the next pattern, which was McCalls. I've not always been a fan of McCalls. There have been times that I find the way they write their instructions to be very confusing. I've also had 2 incidents where I've had McCall's patterns and they missed a step, assuming that you would just know what to do and how to attach something. Not always the greatest at beginner or novice friendly. But this pattern was not one of those patterns. It had all its pieces and it had all the instructions, which is fantastic. So, let's start with pros. So, it is very much show accurate, which I love. I love. The sleeves are in the box's shape and have the split at the bottom like hers. They also have contrast. Now, another aspect too that's show accurate, as I showed you before, was they have the ties, the kimono ties, which is exactly how hers seals up, and it's great because you don't need a zipper. That's how it opens and closes, with the ties. Now, my final pro for this one is I was really kind of like surprised in a good way. They had like the embroidery pieces in the pattern. So like the big lions that she has, like they had those, and I thought that was just really cool. So yeah, it's really awesome that it has the embroidery for the lion. It doesn't have the rest of it, but you know, the lion is like the biggest part. And it even has nice step-by-steps on how to make it an applique if you wanted to. And I was very impressed with that. That's really helpful because that's the hardest part of her outfit. I'm just totally honest. That is the hardest part of her outfit, is the embroidery work. And I've even done it all by hand before. Yeah. So, now I'm going to go on to my cons, and the biggest con I have is in the sleeves. So, in this part of the sleeve section where the bicep is, it runs on the small side. And I actually had to completely redo the upper section of the sleeve. Luckily, it is in 2 parts. It's in the small part and then the big part. So it wasn't a horrible mishap, and I had enough fabric to fix that. But do keep that in mind when you're doing the sleeves. Measure your bicep and see how long the pattern is, because I had to add like 1.5 inches to make sure it was, you know, like when I flexed or when my customer flexed, that it wasn't too tight on them. So, the only other con is it does get a little, the way they write about how to do the sleeve part, It's understandable, but read it 3 times before attempting it, and then it'll make more sense. And that pretty much sums up my pros and cons for the McCalls pattern. I think you're kind of seeing probably which one's going to win. So before I announce who my winner is, I just want to kind of talk over fabrics that are great choices for this design. Going over Cersei's dress and really studying it for a long time, the fabrics I choose a lot is either Shanghai or Silk du Peony, and they're my favorites. You can definitely use a bridal satin if you like, or any other type of satin types, but I love Shanghai because it has that oldie worldy type look, and du Peony is just gorgeous. The colors are gorgeous. Mind you, those fabrics are expensive, and you can't find them at Joann's. At least not my Joann's, I don't know, but I have to get mine online. So, those are my suggested fabric choices for the pattern. And unless you want to hate yourself, you can certainly do all the show accurate embroidery. I will be posting up a video in the near future of me kind of going over how I did some of the show accurate embroidery. If not, just you know, use the applique that you get in McCalls if you get the McCall one, and make your line that way, and go buy some store-bought like Ivy's or something. You will enjoy it more. So, in conclusion, my winner for this pattern comparison is dun, 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 McCalls! I choose McCalls! So why did I make McCalls my winner? Well, obviously talking about it, I enjoyed working with it a lot more. I was much more happy with the results. It was very show accurate. All in all, I really enjoyed using this pattern, and I continue to use it, of course. Don't get me wrong, I love Simplicity's patterns. Probably the sleeve is my favorite part of that pattern, and like I said, I have taken it and used it in other patterns to get that nice medieval style sleeve. So, my suggestion would be going for the McCalls pattern if you want to make a Cersei dress. Now, if you're asking about the other dresses in those patterns, I don't know. I have not made them, but you can kind of get a good idea what they might be like. So, I hope that you found this video informative in some way, helpful some way. Like I said, I'm not saying don't buy Simplicity. By all means, go ahead and buy it. I'm just saying I personally preferred McCalls. So, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. I will answer it to my best that I can. I don't know all the answers, but I'll give you an answer. And don't forget to subscribe to see more pattern comparison videos in the future. There won't be like a ton of them because I don't go out buying patterns to usually compare them. And not all the companies have patterns that are very similar to compare. So just next time I will be comparing body suits. McCalls versus Simplicities. So, thank you for stopping by and watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye!